There is a place on this earth where the sky is so wide, so endlessly vast, that it makes you feel like you've shrunk down to almost nothing. Where the land stretches in every direction. No buildings, no roads, no billboards, no noise, just grass, wind, and the kind of quiet that modern people have completely forgotten how to sit in. A place where families wake up before the sun, step outside their round felt homes, and breathe air so clean it almost hurts. A place where children learn to ride horses before they learn to read. A place where the stars at night are so dense, so overwhelming that you stop and just stand there. Because you've never seen anything like it in your life. This place is real. It exists right now, today in the year 2026. And almost nobody is talking about it. Music begins, slow, haunting, Mongolian throat singing fades in underneath the narration. Welcome to Mongolia. Not the Mongolia of textbooks. Not the Mongolia of conquest and empire and Genghis Khan on horseback. Not the Mongolia of Wikipedia pages and history class. The real Mongolia. The one that has been quietly existing for thousands of years, long before any of us were born, and will continue existing long after we're gone, if the modern world lets it. Today we are going somewhere that most travel channels will never take you. We are leaving the capital city of Ulaanbaatar behind. We are leaving the paved roads behind. We are leaving Wi-Fi, coffee shops, hotel lobbies, and Instagram behind. We are going deep, deep into the steppe, deep into the Mongolian countryside, where nomadic families still live exactly the way their ancestors lived 800 years ago. Where the gers, the round, portable, breathtakingly beautiful felt tent that has housed the Mongolian people for centuries, is still home. Where dinner is cooked over fire. Where horses are still transportation. Where the rhythms of life are set not by clocks or calendars, but by the movement of animals, the turning of seasons, and the ancient wisdom passed down from grandparent to grandchild, generation after generation, without interruption. Cut to wide aerial shot of the Mongolian steppe, rolling golden hills, a cluster of white gers in the distance, smoke rising slowly into a pale blue sky. But before we get there, before we meet the families, before we sit inside those gers and drink salty milk tea and eat dried curds by the fire, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you who these people are. Because this story doesn't start today. It doesn't start last year or last century. This story starts over 800 years ago, in the very same land we're about to walk across. Music shifts, deeper, more cinematic. A single morin kur, the Mongolian horsehead fiddle, plays slowly. In the late 1100s on this exact steppe, this same windswept, sky-dominated grassland, a boy was born to a minor clan of nomadic herders. His name was Temujin. His childhood was brutal. His father was poisoned when he was 9 years old. His clan abandoned him and his family, leaving them to starve on the steppe. He was captured, enslaved, and humiliated. By every measure of his time he should have been nobody. A forgotten child on a forgotten piece of land at the edge of the known world. But something happened. Temujin survived. He escaped. He gathered followers. He forged alliances. And one by one he began to unite the warring nomadic tribes of Mongolia, tribes that had been fighting each other for generations, under a single banner. In 1206, at a grand assembly of all tribal leaders called a Kurultai, Temujin was proclaimed the Great Khan, the universal ruler of all the Mongols. The world would come to know him by a different name, Genghis Khan. And what happened next changed the course of human history forever. The empire that Genghis Khan built became the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching at its height from the Sea of Japan all the way to Eastern Europe, connecting the Pacific to the Mediterranean. Cities that had stood for centuries were brought to their knees. Kingdoms that considered themselves untouchable were shattered. At their peak, the Mongols controlled between 11 and 12 million contiguous square miles, an area roughly the size of the entire continent of Africa. And yet, here is what the history books often miss. Genghis Khan also granted religious freedom to his subjects, abolished torture, encouraged trade, and created the first international postal system. The vast empire connected the East with the West. Gunpowder, paper, printing, and the compass all became familiar in Europe through Mongol trade routes. This was not just a war machine. This was a civilization, born right here, on this grass, under this sky. Wind sound returns briefly. Camera slowly pushes toward the distant gers on the horizon. And the descendants of that civilization, the grandchildren of the greatest empire the world has ever seen, are still here. living quietly, living simply, living in ways that would be completely recognizable to their ancestors. Today, roughly 1/3 of Mongolia's population still lives a nomadic lifestyle, herding animals across the land, yaks, goats, sheep, camels, horses, in a country that has over 70 million herded animals. But that way of life is changing. Younger generations are moving away from the countryside and into the capital city, where education and employment opportunities are more accessible. Climate change is impacting long-standing cattle grazing rituals. Technology is creeping in, which means what we are about to show you, this way of life, these families, these villages, may not look the same in another generation. This is a world on the edge of disappearing, and we are going in right now before it does. Let's go back, all the way back, because to truly understand the people we are about to meet, to understand why they live the way they live, why they value what they value, why the land beneath their feet is sacred to them, you have to understand where they come from. And where they come from is unlike anywhere else on Earth. Mongolia sits deep within the interior of Eastern Asia, far from any ocean, locked between Russia to the north and China to the south. For thousands of years, this isolation shaped everything. It shaped the people. It shaped the culture. It shaped the way entire generations thought about survival, community, and the natural world. The Mongolian plateau is not an easy place to live. Winters drop to devastating lows. Summers are short and punishing. There are no rivers wide enough to build great cities around, no coastlines to invite trade. Just land. Endless, unforgiving, beautiful land. And yet, from this land, came the most powerful empire the human race has ever produced. The empire emerged from the unification of several nomadic tribes under the leadership of Temujin, who was proclaimed ruler of all Mongols in 1206. But what made Genghis Khan truly remarkable wasn't just the size of what he conquered. It was how he built something from nothing. Wikipedia. He rose from humble beginnings, organized his warriors into disciplined units without regard to family or clan, and forbade the selling and kidnapping of women, banned the enslavement of any Mongol, and made livestock theft punishable by death. In a world of tribal chaos, he created order. In a world of inherited privilege, he built a meritocracy. History. He embraced trade and religious freedom, and adopted the most advanced technology of his time: stirrups, composite bows, leather armor, and gunpowder. National Geographic. His armies didn't just fight. They strategized. They adapted. They were faster, more disciplined, and more psychologically devastating than anything the civilized world had ever faced. Their success rested on a complex military structure and new tactics: arrow storms, massive arsenals, repeated hit-and-run barrages, delayed sieges, and psychological warfare. National Geographic. Cities surrendered not because they were always outmatched in strength, but because the reputation of the Mongols arrived before the army did. And then, just as suddenly as it rose, the empire began to fracture. After Genghis Khan's death, his empire was divided among his 4 sons, each ruling a separate khanate. The unified empire endured until 1260, when the 4 khanates became fully autonomous. Dynastic disputes, cultural absorption, and the slow weight of ruling conquered peoples pulled the empire apart from the inside. World History Encyclopedia. By the 14th century it was gone. But Mongolia remained. The land remained. The people remained. And most remarkably, the way of life remained. Music softens. Camera settles on a close-up of an elderly Mongolian man's hands, weathered and strong, holding a leather bridle. That is the most astonishing thing about this place. 800 years of history, conquest, collapse, foreign occupation, Soviet rule, and now rapid modernization. And still, in the countryside, life looks strikingly familiar to what it always was. The gr, the horse, the fire, the sky. Some things it seems even history cannot erase. There is a specific moment, and every traveler who has made this journey will know exactly what I'm talking about, when the road disappears. Not slowly, not gradually. One minute there is asphalt beneath you, then gravel. Then the gravel thins out. And then, nothing. Just the open steppe in every direction, and a faint set of tire tracks in the grass that somebody at some point decided to call a road. That moment is when Mongolia truly begins. The first thing that hits you is the silence. Not the silence of a quiet room. Not the silence of early morning in a sleeping city. This is something completely different. A deep, ancient, almost physical silence that presses against your ears and makes you realize how much noise you've been living with your entire life without ever noticing. The second thing that hits you is the scale. The rolling hills, dotted with wildflowers, create a vibrant tapestry that contrasts against a deep blue sky, and with each step further in, the only sounds are the rustling of grass and the distant calls of birds. You feel very small here. Not in a frightening way. In a humbling way. In a way that quietly rearranges something inside you. And then, on the horizon, you see them. Small white dots. Barely visible at first. Easy to mistake for rocks or distant animals. But as you get closer, the shapes become clear. Gers. Music swells gently as the camera slowly zooms toward a cluster of gers, smoke rising from the center roof openings, horses grazing nearby, a child running between them. Each ger is a reflection of its inhabitants. Portable homes made from felt and wood, often adorned with colorful decorations and personal touches that tell stories of family and tradition. You haven't even stepped inside yet. And already, you understand that you are somewhere completely different from anywhere you have ever been. Step inside a Mongolian ger, and the first thing you notice is that everything has a place. Not by accident. Not by habit. By ancient design. When you enter, you are welcomed with warmth and hospitality that is characteristic of Mongolian culture. It is customary to be offered a cup of milk tea, a staple in the diet, and perhaps some traditional snacks like dried curds or pastries. This simple act, offering food and drink to a stranger, is not just politeness here. It is philosophy. It is a statement about how this culture sees other human beings. You are not a stranger to be cautious of. You are a guest to be honored. Sit down. Accept the tea. Hold the bowl with both hands. That is the respectful way. And just look around. The ger is circular. Deliberately so. There are no corners in a ger because corners collect bad energy according to Mongolian tradition. The wooden lattice walls are painted in deep reds and oranges. Hand-woven textiles hang between the support beams, intricate patterns that have been passed down through generations, each design carrying its own meaning. At the center of everything is the stove. Small, cast iron, burning dried animal dung as fuel, which sounds unusual until you realize it burns cleaner and longer than wood in a treeless landscape. Everything in this culture is adapted. Everything makes sense once you understand the land it comes from. The northern side of the ger, the khoomei, is the most sacred space. This is where the family altar sits, where photographs of ancestors are placed, where the most honored guests are invited to sit. You do not walk through the center of a ger without purpose. You do not point your feet toward the altar. You do not whistle indoors. These are not superstitions. They are a language of respect, spoken through behavior rather than words. Outside the ger, the morning is already in full motion. Nomadic families survive by herding animals. The country has roughly 70 million herded animals, including yaks, goats, sheep, and camels. And every single one of those animals needs attention before the day can begin. Children no older than 7 are already on horseback. Not being led. Not being supervised. Riding independently across the open steppe, moving the sheep to the morning grazing ground with the casual confidence of someone who has been doing it their entire life, because they have. This is not a performance for the camera. This is Tuesday morning. This is just life. Every place on Earth has its postcard version. The shot everyone takes. The angle everyone sees. The experience that gets packaged and sold and repeated until it stops meaning anything. Mongolia has that too. But what Mongolia also has, if you slow down enough, if you stay long enough, if you stop treating it like a checklist, are the moments that never make it into the brochure. Deep in the Mongolian steppes, away from any modernizing influence, communities maintain strong connections to their Buddhist faith. Small temples serving as spiritual centers for villages that the outside world has largely never heard of. Find one of those temples on a quiet afternoon. Sit outside it for a while. Watch who comes and goes. An elderly man spinning a prayer wheel as naturally as breathing. A young mother bringing her infant to be blessed. A monk who looks no older than 15, sweeping the stone steps in the same unhurried way monks have swept steps in this country for 500 years. Nobody is performing. Nobody knows you're watching. This is simply what faith looks like when it is completely woven into daily life rather than reserved for Sundays. In the far western reaches of Mongolia, near the convergence of Mongolia, Russia, and China, Kazakh eagle hunters maintain one of the country's most spectacular and ancient cultural traditions. These are not eagle hunters who perform for tourists. These are families for whom the bond between hunter and bird is as real and as deep as any human relationship. Trained over years, maintained through daily ritual, and passed from father to child like an inheritance more valuable than land or money. If you are lucky enough to witness a training session, the bird launched from a leather glove, banking sharply against a gray sky, returning on command, you will understand immediately why this tradition has survived everything history has thrown at it. As you move between communities, you begin to notice how each one adapts to its specific environment, utilizing local resources with a deep respect for nature, an approach that reflects centuries of hard-won understanding of the land. The Gobi families know how to read the desert. The lake communities know the water. The mountain herders know the snow. None of this knowledge was written down in a book. All of it lives in people. And that, more than any landscape, more than any ruin, more than any monument, is what makes Mongolia one of the most quietly extraordinary places on the face of the earth. Some things you cannot photograph properly. You can only be there. There is a word in Mongolian, nadam, that roughly translates to games. But to call it just games would be like calling the ocean just water. Nadam is identity. Nadam is memory. Nadam is the single most important cultural event in the Mongolian calendar, a festival that has been celebrated in some form for as long as Mongolia has existed as a people. Traditional festivals see locals don their finest attire and engage in spirited games like wrestling or horse racing. Events that are not just entertainment, but a celebration of identity and resilience, showcasing the enduring spirit of the Mongolian people. But you don't need a festival to see Mongolian culture alive and breathing. You just need to show up on an ordinary day and pay attention. Watch the women. In a nomadic household, the women carry more than their share. They are up before dawn, lighting the stove, boiling the milk, preparing the arag, fermented mare's milk, slightly alcoholic, slightly sour, and absolutely central to Mongolian daily life. They are the ones who know how to take a ger apart in under an hour and reassemble it perfectly in a new location. They are the architects of a home that moves. Gender norms in Mongolia are quietly evolving and technology is slowly reshaping lifestyles. But the foundational rhythms of nomadic life, the daily rituals of herding, cooking, and community, remain deeply intact in the countryside. Watch the elders. In Mongolian culture, old age is not something to be managed or accommodated. It is something to be consulted. The oldest members of a community are its library, living repositories of weather patterns, grazing routes, medicinal plants, and stories that no smartphone can store. Sit with an elder long enough, and if the language barrier allows even a fraction of communication, you will hear things that reframe everything you thought you knew about what it means to live a meaningful life. And then, listen. Storytelling is an integral part of Mongolian culture, often shared around a warm fire during chilly evenings. Tales passed down through generations that weave together history, mythology, and moral lessons, providing insight into the values that shape their lives. You might even find yourself captivated by the art of throat singing, or the mesmerizing rhythms of traditional music, sounds that echo the steppe itself and reflect the nomad's deep connection to their surroundings. Mongolian throat singing, khoomei, is one of the most extraordinary sounds a human being can produce. A single performer simultaneously creates 2 or even 3 distinct pitches at once. A deep, resonant drone beneath a high flute-like melody floating above it. The first time you hear it live, in person, sitting inside a ger with the wind outside and a fire between you, it does something to your chest. It doesn't just sound ancient. It feels ancient. Like something your body recognizes even though your mind has never encountered it before. This is what culture sounds like when it hasn't been packaged for an audience. This is what it sounds like when it's still just alive. Every great civilization has its founding story. The Greeks had Homer. The Romans had Virgil. The Mongols have something older, stranger, and more honest than either. They have the secret history of the Mongols. Written shortly after the death of Genghis Khan, it is the oldest surviving literary work in the Mongolian language. It is part biography, part mythology, part raw and unfiltered human drama. It doesn't sanitize its subject. It doesn't turn Genghis Khan into a clean hero. Most of what we know about Genghis Khan's early life comes from this text, the oldest known work of Mongolian history and literature, written soon after his death. And what it tells us is a story not of a god or a legend, but of a man. A man who lost his father at 9 years old and was abandoned by his entire clan on the open steppe, left to survive a Mongolian winter with almost nothing. At one point, Temujin was captured and enslaved by the clan that had abandoned him, but he eventually escaped and began gathering followers, building a reputation as a warrior that attracted a growing number of loyal men to his side. Think about that for a moment. The man who would go on to build the largest contiguous empire in human history started his life as a slave. As an abandoned child on a freezing steppe, with no army, no allies, and no reason for the world to believe he was anything other than a casualty waiting to happen. What changed everything was not birthright, not luck, it was will. Genghis Khan transformed the Mongols' traditional tribal structure into an integrated meritocracy, a system dedicated to rewarding loyalty and ability over bloodline and inheritance. In doing so, he didn't just build an army. He built a new kind of society, one where a man from the lowest rank could rise to command thousands if he proved himself worthy. And here is the part of the story that this land makes you feel in a way no classroom ever could. Genghis Khan never forgot where he came from. Even after his deification in Mongolian religious tradition, Genghis came to be invoked during weddings and festivals, woven into ancestor veneration rituals, not primarily as a conqueror, but as a protector. A sleeping hero, according to legend, who will return to help the Mongolian people in their time of greatest need. That legend is still told today. In gers just like this one, around fires just like this one, by grandparents to grandchildren in the same language on the same land under the same stars. Some stories refuse to die. And sometimes, sitting in the dark on the Mongolian steppe, listening to the wind move across 800 years of history, you begin to understand why. If you want to understand Mongolia, truly, physically, in your bones understand it, you need to be awake before the sun. Not for the photographs, not for the content, for yourself. Because there is a window of about 20 minutes, just before full sunrise on the Mongolian steppe, where the world looks like it was painted by someone who had never heard the word restraint. The sky goes from black to deep violet to a burning, impossible amber that lights the grass from underneath and turns every single blade into something golden. No filter. No editing. No enhancement needed. This is just what it looks like. Mongolia has a particular relationship with light that photographers travel halfway around the world to find and still leave feeling like they didn't fully capture it. The sky here is enormous, unobstructed by buildings, mountains, or trees across most of the steppe, which means the light travels differently. It spreads wider. It lingers longer. Golden hour in Mongolia doesn't last an hour. On a clear evening in the open countryside, it can stretch close to 2. The best vantage points are not marked on any map. They are wherever you are standing when the light arrives. But if you want specifics, climb any gentle ridge above a gers settlement just before dusk and look back down. The white gers catch the last of the light and practically glow against the darkening grass. Smoke rises straight up into still evening air. Horses move slowly toward the settlement for the night. Children are being called in. It looks like a painting that predates the concept of painting. At higher elevations in Mongolia's northern regions, where forest and mountain tundra converge around pristine lakes, the landscape shifts entirely. Mornings bring a low mist across the water, the treeline glows with the first light, and the silence is so complete it has a texture of its own. Then there are the nights. If the sunrises on the Mongolian steppe are extraordinary, the nights are something that genuinely defies description. There is no light pollution for hundreds of kilometers in any direction across most of the countryside. What that means in practical terms is that the Milky Way is not a faint smudge on the horizon the way city dwellers occasionally glimpse it. It is a ceiling. A dense, luminous, overwhelming ceiling of light directly above your head that makes you stop walking and just stand there with your neck craned back, feeling something that is very close to vertigo. This serene environment becomes a perfect backdrop for reflection. The rolling hills, the deep blue sky by day and the star-filled darkness by night, create a setting that makes every moment feel quietly monumental. If you are visiting Mongolia, the late summer months, July through August, offer the warmest temperatures and the greenest steppe. This is also when Naadam festival occurs, filling the countryside with color, music, and competition. September brings a golden quality to the grass and cooler, crisper air that makes every landscape shot look like it belongs in a documentary. But honestly, anytime you are here with open eyes and enough stillness to receive it, Mongolia will show you something you were not expecting. That is its greatest gift. Alright, let's talk logistics. Because Mongolia is one of those destinations that rewards preparation in a way most places don't. Not because it's dangerous, it isn't, not in any meaningful way for a careful traveler, but because it is genuinely remote. And remote means that the small things you forgot to think about at home become very large problems once you're 3 hours from the nearest town on the open steppe. So here is what you actually need to know. First, visas. Most nationalities can enter Mongolia visa-free for stays of up to 30 days. Check your specific country's agreement before traveling, as policies can shift. If you plan to stay longer or cross into the countryside for extended periods, register with local authorities as required. Second, getting there. Ulaanbaatar's Genghis Khan International Airport is the main entry point, with connections through Beijing, Seoul, Moscow, and Istanbul being the most common routes. Once you land in the capital, the rail journey begins. Rent a reliable four-wheel drive vehicle. This is not optional. It is non-negotiable. The Mongolian countryside does not have roads in the way you are imagining roads. What it has are directions, and the vehicle that gets you there needs to handle river crossings, deep mud, rocky inclines, and stretches of nothing but open grass. Hire a local guide. Local guides can accommodate visitors in traditional dwellings and provide genuine insight into sustainable herding practices and cultural customs that have survived across generations, knowledge that no guidebook can fully replicate. This is not just practical advice. It is respectful advice. The communities you are entering have their own protocols, their own sacred spaces, their own ways of welcoming outsiders. A good local guide is not just a translator. They are a bridge. Third, what to pack. Layers. More layers than you think you need. The Mongolian steppe can deliver 4 seasons in a single day: warm and sunny by mid-morning, cold and windy by afternoon, and genuinely freezing after dark regardless of the month. A quality sleeping bag rated for low temperatures is essential if you are staying in gers away from the main tourist circuit, as heating can be limited overnight. Bring cash. Mongolia's countryside operates almost entirely on physical currency. Card readers and mobile payments belong to Ulaanbaatar. Out on the steppe, cash is king. Bring a small gift. Hospitality is a cornerstone of Mongolian culture. When you are welcomed into a ger and offered milk tea and traditional snacks, this simple act of sharing is a profound expression of friendship and respect. Arriving with a small offering, sweets for children, tea or tobacco for elders, is a way of participating in that culture of generosity rather than just receiving it. Fourth, health and safety. The altitude in certain regions of Mongolia exceeds 1,500 meters. Give yourself time to adjust before attempting anything strenuous. Drink only boiled or filtered water in the countryside. And travel with a basic medical kit. The nearest clinic from some of the more remote settlements can be several hours away. Finally, and this is the most important practical advice of everything I've just told you, slow down. Mongolia will not reward rushing. It will not reward a packed itinerary or a checked-off list of sites. The entire point of this place, the thing that makes it unlike everywhere else, is what happens when you stop moving and simply stay somewhere long enough for it to open up to you. Give a community 3 days instead of 1 afternoon. Sit with people. Share meals. Learn 3 words of Mongolian and use them badly and watch what it does to the room. Traveling to these remote villages is not just about sightseeing. It is about immersing yourself in a lifestyle that values community and connection with nature, an ethos that is evident in every interaction you have with the locals. You came a very long way to get here. Make it worth it. We came here looking for a place the world forgot. What we found instead was a place that never needed the world to remember it. Mongolia doesn't exist for our cameras. It doesn't exist for our travel blogs or our YouTube channels or our need to find something authentic in a world that has polished everything else into smoothness. It exists for itself. For the families who have called this steppe home for 1,000 years. For the children learning to ride before they learn to read. For the elders who carry entire libraries of knowledge inside them that no search engine will ever index. For the horses, the eagles, the fire, the silence. The nomadic way of life in Mongolia is changing. Younger generations are moving toward the cities, climate patterns are shifting, and the rhythms that have governed life on the steppe for centuries are under quiet but real pressure. Which means what we witnessed here, is not guaranteed to look the same in another generation. So if there is one thing I want you to take from this video, it is this. Some places on this earth still exist outside of time. Still move at the pace of animals and seasons rather than notifications and deadlines. Mongolia is one of them. And it is extraordinary.